This is the movie Teddy Bear. A massive and shy bodybuilder goes to Thailand in search of the girl of his dreams, defying his mother's restrictions. The film begins with the protagonist, Dennis, a towering bodybuilder, looking at himself in the mirror. After leaving the restaurant restroom, he returns to the table where a girl is waiting for him. She asks why he isn't eating the shrimp cocktail, only to discover that he's allergic to shrimp. Flustered, Dennis struggles to explain why he ordered it. Perhaps because the date is so disastrous that he'd rather end it abruptly. From their conversation, it's clear that the girl owns a beauty salon, while Dennis is a professional bodybuilder. He lifts weights and competes in muscle definition contests. However, since competitions don't pay much, Dennis works as a bouncer at a pub to make ends meet. After this revelation, the girl's interest wanes. She accuses Dennis of shamelessly staring at her chest, though he was actually looking at her pendant. Later, sitting in his car, Dennis shakes his head in disappointment. The date was a failure. He returns home, sneaking in quietly to avoid waking his mother. But she's awake, sitting in the kitchen, waiting for him to return. She interrogates him, and Dennis lies, saying he went to the movies with a friend. He heads to bed, but his mother, under the guise of concern, unleashes a wave of passive aggression. Still, Dennis manages to defuse the tension. The next morning, while showering, his mother barges into the bathroom without hesitation and sits on the toilet, clearly showing her disregard for his privacy and personal life. After having his special nutrient-packed breakfast, Dennis prepares to meet his relatives. While sitting in the car, his mother asks if he locked the door. Under her pressure, Dennis reluctantly goes back to check. The family lunch is dedicated to introducing Dennis's uncle's new wife, whom he brought back from Thailand. Dennis watches the couple with a slight smile and a tinge of envy, while his mother frowns in disapproval. She dislikes both the couple and her son's reaction as he helps perform an old family tradition involving cutting off the groom's sock. That evening, while brushing his teeth, his mother can't resist reminding Dennis that his uncle's happiness is only temporary. At the gym, Dennis focuses on lifting weights, but while his veins pump nutrients to his strained muscles, dark thoughts swirl in his mind. A passing girl from a recent date exacerbates the situation. She doesn't even respond to Dennis's greeting. The protagonist visits his uncle to help weed the garden. Later, his uncle thanks him for the help by gathering travel brochures about Thailand, a destination Dennis is preparing to visit. At home, Dennis searches online for hotel information. Feeling determined, he approaches the girl who had rejected him at the gym, just to tell her that she isn't his type. Unsurprisingly, she reacts with relief. Buoyed by confidence, Dennis practices poses in front of the mirror with his gym buddy. At home, he informs his mother that he's traveling to Germany, allegedly for a competition. His mother disapproves of this sudden turn of events, pointedly refusing to finish her dinner. The next morning, when Dennis makes breakfast, his mother doesn't even leave her room. Nonetheless, her behavior does nothing to alter Dennis's resolve to leave. After packing, he goes to say goodbye, but she remains wrapped in a blanket, unwilling to come out. Throwing on his jacket, Dennis leaves his childhood home, ready for new adventures. Soon, he's riding in a taxi through Thailand. Southeast Asia, after the harsh Scandinavian climate of his native Denmark, feels like a magical wonderland. The local women are particularly uninhibited. Even the hotel concierge asks if Dennis will be bringing someone to his room, as an additional fee would apply. Dennis declines for now, noting he'll need to find a companion first, though the condoms thoughtfully provided on the nightstand suggest the hotel expects otherwise. After checking in, Dennis gazes from the balcony at the exotic land below, brimming with possibilities for a tourist. He later visits a local eatery to meet a man named Scott, whom his uncle had referred him to. Scott introduces Dennis to his new wife and promises to help him as well. After discussing Dennis's preferences, Scott instructs him to return in the evening. He'll arrange a girl for him. On the way back, a taxi driver suggests stopping by a tailor. Evidently, he's another businessman moonlighting as a cab driver. At the tailor's, Dennis is measured from every angle so they can have a jacket ready by evening. The savvy tailor tries to upsell him a second jacket at a discount. And when Dennis declines, he raises the price of the first by 1,000 baht, exploiting his tourist status. Back at the hotel, Dennis calls home to let his mother know he's arrived safely, but she doesn't answer. He leaves a voicemail instead. Later, dressed in his new jacket, Dennis admires his reflection in the mirror, wearing it over shorts. He sets out for his meeting, fending off overly friendly women along the way, each eager to earn money from the foreigner. At a small diner, he is greeted by the owner himself and his guests. Dennis notices that the place is full of foreigners, entertained by local women. Soon, one of the women approaches him. She confidently and professionally takes the initiative, chatting with the shy protagonist and admiring his well-developed physique. The woman asks him to show his muscles, further embarrassing Dennis, and prompting him to retreat to the restroom. However, even there, the outgoing Thai woman doesn't leave him alone. She follows him, trying to get a closer look and even offering to wipe him down with a towel, flustering him even more. Nevertheless, the two of them return to the hotel, where a cheerful concierge welcomes the guest, reminding him about an additional payment. In the room, Dennis nervously paces back and forth while his guest takes a shower. Emerging in just a towel, the woman mentions her rates, surprising the big, kind-hearted man. Despite his initial hesitation, Dennis agrees to pay, but when she is ready to proceed, he suggests they talk instead to get to know each other better. Ultimately, his shyness takes over, and he firmly asks her to leave without engaging in her professional activities. Disappointed, the woman gets dressed and departs with Dennis paying her fee. Left alone, he calls his mother and listens to the satisfied sounds coming from other, less hesitant hotel guests. The next morning, he visits a gym where the locals, who look skinny compared to him, are lifting weights. Dennis asks one of the athletes to show him where the barbell plates are. While loading the plates, a Thai bodybuilder recognizes him and points to a trophy stand, featuring a scrapbook of newspaper clippings, including one about Dennis. The fan introduces Dennis to the club's owner, a woman named Toy. The athletes then train together, spotting one another. Along the way, Dennis shares some bodybuilding tips that can be useful in competitions. After the workout, his new friend invites him to dinner with his group, but Dennis has other plans. He returns to Scott's diner, where he meets a new woman, and the cycle repeats like a scene from Groundhog Day. The same questions, the same answers. The evening is enlivened by a local singer's performance, during which the guests wave their arms to the rhythm of the music. Looking around, Dennis finds an excuse to leave. On his way out, he is surrounded by other women looking to earn some money, but he wants to be alone. After sitting on a bench for a while, he heads to a restaurant recommended by his friend from the gym. Among fellow athletes who share his passion, Dennis feels more at ease. Even the presence of Toy, the gym owner, doesn't unsettle him. When she asks where he's from, Dennis provides more details than the usual Denmark. He learns that the gym belonged to Toy's late husband, who passed away a few years ago. Dennis shares that he has never been married, as he hasn't yet found the one. Toy encourages him, saying there's still time. After dinner, the bodybuilders leave on their mopeds, leaving Toy and Dennis alone. They return on public transportation, and on the way, the woman asks if he knows how to ride a moped. The next morning, the two of them set off to explore Thailand's attractions and cuisine, making sure to stop by a temple to offer gifts to the priests. Their moped ride ends on a beach, where Dennis admires Toy emerging from the water in a wet, body-hugging t-shirt. When she suggests having a picnic there, Dennis leans in to kiss her, but she pulls back, startled. Disheartened, he walks away but finds himself unable to start his moped in the parking lot. Toy returns and suggests leaving the moped there until the next day and offers him a ride on her bike, which he accepts. They cruise through the evening city together. When they say goodbye outside his hotel, Toy explains that public displays of affection are not customary in Thailand, then invites him to dinner at her home. Once there, instead of eating, they start kissing, unbothered by curious onlookers. Even so, Dennis remains shy, and Toy has to take the lead. At the last moment, Dennis loses his nerve and leaves, apologizing. Outside, he pauses, standing in the middle of the quiet night street, then turns around and knocks on her door. Sitting awkwardly on the bed, Dennis confesses that he really likes her and asks if he can stay the night. Despite her agreement, they fall asleep fully clothed, cuddling. In the next scene, Dennis is riding in a taxi through his hometown streets. He enters his house with suitcases and finds his mother at home. Over tea, she asks how the competition went. He lies, claiming he placed 6th, which explains the lack of trophies, but not his satisfied smile. His mother also notices his fresh tan, which he attributes to a tanning salon. However, Dennis brought back more than just a tan and a blazer from the trip, a photograph of Toy. Soon after, Dennis is apartment hunting with a realtor. That evening, unable to sleep, his thoughts racing, he goes to talk to his mother. It's urgent. With a heavy heart, he admits that instead of going to Germany, he traveled to Thailand, inspired by his uncle's example, hoping to find a girlfriend. He tells her he met Toy, but his mother, deeply offended, orders him to leave. The next morning, Dennis comes down to the kitchen to find his mother at the table. They are about to have a difficult conversation. She questions him about the rival who dared to challenge her claim on her beloved son. Dennis, however, is reluctant to share details of his personal life. This leads to accusations. If he's lying to his mother, she claims, he must no longer love her. Not forgetting to denounce the ugliness of sex tourism, she concludes that she does not approve of his relationship and demands that he end it immediately. Accustomed to resisting physical but not emotional pressure, Dennis promises to do as she asks. But later, he meets Toy at the airport with a joyful smile and a bouquet of flowers. He takes her to the apartment he secretly bought and furnished, avoiding the need to introduce her to his mother. At the apartment, Dennis gives Toy a pendant before sharing bad news. His mother's health has taken a turn, and he needs to care for her while Toy settles into the new place. Naturally, the girl isn't thrilled about the situation, but she skillfully hides her feelings. However, even that turns out to be a lie. The mother is perfectly fine. Dennis returns to her in the evening. The next day, Dennis is wandering through the mall with Toy when he notices his mother nearby. He quickly ducks into the nearest boutique to avoid being spotted. However, the trick doesn't work. His mother sees her tall son in a women's lingerie store, and Toy notices that someone is speaking with her boyfriend. In this awkward situation, Dennis could confess everything, but instead, he valiantly lies, introducing Toy as the wife of his uncle's sister. However, the conversation inevitably drifts toward the truth when Toy asks about his mother's health. Dennis, unable to come up with a better plan, hurriedly leaves with Toy amid his mother's angry shouts. Sitting in the car, feeling much like he did after a failed date at the beginning of the movie, Dennis is lost in deep thought. He drops Toy off and heads home to sort things out. At home, his mother is sitting in the kitchen, clutching a bloody towel. She had cut herself while trashing his room and knocking over the stand holding his trophies. Seeing the destruction, Dennis collapses onto the bed, drained of energy. A single tear rolls down his stern face. Later, sitting at the table, he finally answers his mother's question about Toy with, "It's none of your business?" She accuses him, comparing him to his father. Dennis calmly announces that Toy is staying in the country and that he himself is moving out. Switching from pressure to emotional manipulation, his mother sheds a tear. Dennis carefully bandages her wounds before packing up his hard-earned trophies into boxes. Surveying his room, once a near solitary cell in a psychological prison, he loads his belongings into the car. Toy waits for him in the vehicle. Hugging his mother goodbye, Dennis ignores her plea to stay and walks away, heading toward his new, happier life. The loaded car drives off, carrying Dennis and Toy to their own apartment. The camera pans up over the road, leaving the characters to their happiness, the perfect ending to the film.